Billionaire Elon Musk has sparked a new major scandal by calling for the complete dissolution of the European Union after his social network X was once again hit with a hefty fine in Europe for failing to comply with European legislation. The European Union should be abolished and control should be handed over to national authorities, said SpaceX founder and Tesla owner billionaire Elon Musk, who recently received a €120 million fine from the European Commission. The European Union should be abolished and sovereignty returned to individual countries so that governments can better represent their people, wrote Elon Musk. It's interesting that major Make America Great Again supporters in Europe like Viktor Orban didn't back Elon Musk's call. And it's very simple, because then Hungary, for example, would lose European Union subsidies. At the same time, top officials in the Trump administration condemned the European Commission's fine of nearly $140 million on Company X for violating moderation laws and said they support Elon Musk's calls. Let's break down what the scandal is, what's happening, the fine, and how these statements will end. Elon Musk? My name is Alexei Pichi. Let's discuss this topic together, but before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, like this video, leave any comment under this video, and subscribe to my Telegram channel Pichi News. The link is in the description of this video. There we publish breaking news as it comes in. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation or paid subscription using the links and details in the description of this video. I would be grateful for any support you can give. So, the European Union should be abolished to transfer control to national authorities, said Elon Musk, who recently received a fine of €120 million from the European Commission. Quote, "The European Union should be abolished and sovereignty returned to individual countries so that governments can better represent their people." Businessman Musk also stated that bureaucracy, quote, "is slowly strangling Europe to death." After that, many more posts appeared on his page on the social network X. There was just a stream of thoughts, all of them criticizing the European Union, and some of them were accompanied by the caption, "Cancel the European Union." But what happened? On Thursday, the European Commission fined Elon Musk's company X nearly $140 million, which is about €120 million for the misleading blue checkmark and lack of transparency in advertising. And this is important to note because this fine could become a reason for a clash with the Trump administration, which criticized the European content moderation law, calling it extortion abroad. Especially since at the moment X is the first company to be fined under the European Union's Digital Services Act. This is a content moderation law that applies to search engines, social networks, and hosting platforms. United States Vice President J.D. Vance has now defended Elon Musk, stating, quote, "Well, first of all, the European Union doesn't owe anything to the United States of America. And such statements just a few years ago would have caused an international scandal. And secondly, did Elon Musk's social networks really get fined unfairly? Let's figure it out. So the European Commission fined the social network X because of issues with the blue border, the verification checkmark, ad storage and public data. But the main complaint is about the blue checkmark, which is supposed to convince me as a user that this account is verified, that it is authenticated, and therefore I can trust it. I can know for sure that this is really the account of a particular person or company. But in the statement from the European Commission, the following is said, quote, on X, "Anyone can pay to get verified status without any meaningful identity verification of the account owner, which makes it difficult for users to assess the authenticity of accounts and the content they interact with. This deception makes users vulnerable to fraud." The European Commission said the site's ad repository fails transparency and accessibility standards because of processing delays and hidden key information. Finally, X was fined for non-compliance. And now it has 60 working days to inform the Commission how it intends to handle the blue check marks, and within 90 working days, the company must provide a plan regarding advertising and public data issues. If the social network does nothing, it will face the previously announced fine. But judging by Elon Musk's reaction, he doesn't intend to change anything. But let me remind you that back in 2023, the European Commission launched an investigation into X over allegations of spreading illegal content and the effectiveness of measures taken to combat information manipulation. And so, as they say, the investigation is over. And it's worth recalling here that the new United States national security strategy already states that America simply must come to Europe and set these Europeans straight. With that in mind, should we really be surprised by this scandal and Elon Musk's calls? But to better understand the essence of the problem, I want to quote a few points from that very new national security strategy of Donald Trump. Quote, "Europe's economic downturn overshadows all else. A deeper problem is the sharp prospect of erasing civilizational identity. Europe's problems include the actions of the European Union and transnational bodies that undermine political freedom and sovereignty." This is exactly what Elon Musk is appealing to. He argues that without the European Union, European countries likely wouldn't have introduced fines simultaneously. He says negotiating with each country separately would be easier than dealing with a large European Union. Here's a quote. "Among Europe's problems are migration policy, censorship of freedom of speech and suppression of political opposition, and a decline in birth rates. Due to the Russian war in Ukraine, European ties with the Russian Federation have greatly weakened, and many Europeans now see Russia as an existential threat. Managing Europe's relations with the Russian Federation will require American diplomatic involvement in order to restore strategic stability on the Eurasian continent and prevent conflict between the Russian Federation and European states. The Trump administration is at odds with European officials who have unrealistic expectations about the war in Ukraine, relying on unstable minority governments, many of which trample on basic principles of democracy to suppress the opposition. The European majority wants peace, but this desire is not reflected in policy, largely because their governments undermine democratic processes. American diplomacy should stand for true democracy. European majority. But this desire is reflected in policy to the extent that governments undermine democratic principles. European majority, but this desire is reflected in policy to the point of undermining democratic principles.